How's it going, guys? So I was just looking around a little bit and I just happened to find, I'm not sure if anyone's seen it before, I just happened to come across it. I was reading a little bit about Swiss Air Flight 111, and they took off out of JFK and they were flying to Geneva. They had gotten, I believe, about maybe 300-400 miles away, and the pilot and the first officer began to smell an odor within the cabin, and they were trying to investigate a little bit, but couldn't really find too much of where it was coming from or what it was. They kind of concluded that it was just the air conditioning smelled, so they just closed the vent. The about 45 seconds later, the smell came back and there was actually traces of smoke. So they started to talk with ATC and divert back to Boston. But there was an airport in Halifax, which was actually a little bit closer, and they decided to go to Halifax. In the meantime, they had too much fuel on board to land, and they actually asked ATC if they could get somewhere where they can start dumping the fuel so they can land and not prevent any stress or damage on the landing gear when they came in. However, they didn't realize how bad the situation actually was. The procedure to it was actually to cut all electrical power where the passengers were. And what happened when they did that is when they shut off all the power there, the recirculation fans actually shut off, which then created a vacuum to allow the fire to actually spread even quicker to the cabin. It was found that that the in-flight entertainment system on board had actually overheated, which actually caused the fire. It started as an electrical fire, and then it overheated, and then it just kind of grew from there. The insulation that was actually meant to prevent the fire from spreading failed as well, so that just kind of added to everything. In addition to, the cockpit began to fill with smoke, and it was getting hard for the pilots to actually see the instruments and see what was going on. Their avionics began to fail. The captain had actually, there was a fire inside the cabin, and he was trying to put it out, and he became incapacitated from it. The first officer actually wanted to, before everything kind of started really picking up, he wanted to just go ahead and land, and the captain advised not to, and the captain wanted to dump the fuel before they actually came into land. But obviously that it probably would have been best at that point to just go ahead and land, because once that fire had began to spread extremely quickly. One of the engines had caught fire as well. The first officer had actually pulled the power to that, and since there was so much smoke in the cockpit when he had done that, the aircraft had started to bank from the engine being shut off, and he didn't really realize the attitude of the aircraft, because he couldn't see outside, he couldn't see any of his instruments. The smoke was just too much, and the aircraft eventually just proceeded to just fly into the Atlantic Ocean, or whichever ocean they were actually over. I'm not sure which one it was, but it goes to show how quickly a situation go from bad to worse. So it's very important to have those procedures, down, know exactly what you're doing. Obviously, it probably would have been a better choice if they landed right away. Each situation is going to dictate, but follow those procedures as best as possible. But then again, there was 229 people on board, so you need to really kind of make a decision of, what you think is best, even if, maybe deviating just a little bit, because instead of dumping the fuel, that time could have been spent just going in and landing. And maybe there could have been you know, damage to the landing gear, but at least everyone may have possibly survived. But that's all I have on that.